kicking, never quitting. Focus sharp like a blade that's hitting. From white belt dreams to the master flow, Paul Coffey's got the mic, now the stories grow. Technique entails discipline and fire. Each guest brings truth to inspire. Keep kicking, step into your power. Keep kicking, moment to the hour. Every strike, every fall, every rise. It's a journey through a warrior's eyes. Old school, new school, all styles blend. From the mat to the mic, where the arts ascend. Philosophy deep, but the vibe stays tight. Martial minds meeting in the podcast light. Keep kicking, step into your power. Keep kicking, moment to the hour. Every strike, every fall, every rise. It's a journey through a warrior's eyes. Keep kicking. Keep kicking. Paul Coffey leads and the journey begins. Paul Coffey leads and the journey begins. Technique entails discipline and fire. Each guest brings truth to inspire. Keep kicking, step into your power. Keep kicking, moment to the hour. Every strike, every fall, every rise. It's a journey through a warrior's eyes. Keep kicking. Keep kicking. Paul Coffey leads and the journey begins.
Yeah.
Hello, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
This is a pretty cool. This is pretty interesting little software here.
Yeah, Riverside's pretty genius for a lot of different
Really?
reasons. If you're going to do these type of things, like for me, the deciding factor was all of the
Cool.
built-in editing capabilities. So like when you're done with a recording, it gives you what they call magic clips, and it's just like somewhere in between 8 to 12 1-minute clips of your interview, so you can just give little segments.
Wow.
Makes it really easy to plug
And
them
what
for
is
social media.
AI doing that or something?
for the TikTok
Embedded in
crowd.
there?
Yeah, I think there's
interesting.
AI embedded in there for sure.
Cool. Wow.
Love the bit you
Yeah,
got
these
behind
are
you. That's a cool
these are all my
backdrop.
wife's pieces. My wife is
Your wife is very
Yep.
talented.
That doesn't quite sum it up. Yeah, no, I'm very lucky. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's been really the piece that I've been so much feeling through the holidays and the new year. You know, just this sense of gratitude. Kind of wrote a bit of a poem about that feeling of, you know, my wife is an artist, but hasn't been an artist for many, many years. And when we first started seeing each other,
Mm.
you know, we were friends at the time, but, you know, she had been going through her own abuse cycles with previous relationships and all of that. And so, like, yeah, our entire house is covered in the artwork that they've made over the last 6 years. And so, like, I wrote this poem about just like, you know what,
Brilliant.
no matter what comes next, I know that for 6 years we had art and we had peace and we had quiet.
Right. Well, and also like the present moment being better than the previous moment.
Yeah,
You know?
certainly for them. And yeah, you know, the present moment is always enough, but you know, yeah, the more of them you experience, the more you can have a little bit of a sense of, yeah, this one's pretty rad.
Right. This one's special. Right. Right. So did your wife get into her therapy gig? Was that
Well,
out of the trauma?
so they
or
went
was
to
that
grad
like
school about, I guess now probably about 15 years ago. And when they got out of grad school, they realized that the system that they had opted into was so fucked up. And so they started a burlesque company, you know, and was like, like, fuck it. As you do, like when you
As you
have
do.
because she's a
Right.
dance movement
Yeah.
therapist and studied dance and art and anthropology and there, all of these things that was just like, fuck this. This is broken. This is just as colonial as everything else we're touching right now. I'm not going to do that. And so she really committed to like, I'm going to try to find a different way. So she never got licensed, but then, and never really felt fully like she had done her healing work fully. And so she always felt like a little bit of like a fraud about it. And it was actually through the work that we did together when I was teaching them martial arts that started the reclamation of this process. And here in Massachusetts during COVID, they named a mental health crisis. And so what that allowed them to do was to hire people who were not licensed, but were masters prepared for practice. And so she was able to work, like whatever, you're basically just, you're working as you're at an intern level in terms of you're working under somebody's license. But they had originally dangled student loan forgiveness in front of people about it, which was then pulled away completely. And so we're lucky that she ended up she had a really close relationship with her supervisor. They were at a super fucked up company and the supervisor was like, hey, I'm going to get the fuck out of here. You want to come? And so now she has this like sick setup. It's all online. She works with clients all over New England and has like gone through her healing work and is like working in a way that she's super proud of. And it's so incredible. It's been so great. Beautiful. So it's been a real journey to get here. It's, not a short answer, but yeah, it's been really great.
I have not yet paid my
How do you mean?
How do you mean? I'm getting closer. So how do I mean?
You don't got much.
Yeah, right. Well, so my journey is interesting in that I started martial arts out of desperation. And I'm currently writing a book that is, I'm saying it's a martial arts book, but it's really not a martial arts book. It's more like just a book about trauma and how to navigate trauma through the lens of martial arts, right? And so...
Yeah, but that's an amazing story either way.
We'll see. People who have read the first chapter said that I'm on to something I should keep going, which is the reason I'm keeping going. But so I started martial arts out of this place of desperation. I remember the story
from the class. Yeah.
You attended the class, so, and then like it went from desperation to once I was able to defeat that abuser, it was, I could help other people do that. And so then it just literally became, how can I help other people do that? And I did that for a very long time in my martial arts career, and it was enough. But I was young. I didn't realize that like, oh, you also kind of have to do this internal work and release things and let things go and, all of that. And I've never stepped away from martial arts because of that. But I picked up the moniker that was, I am not a good martial arts instructor, but I am the best student you can have in class with you. And I taught a class at Summit Saturday. And after that class, Rich, one of the guys who attended, he came up to me and he goes, if I was you, I would drop that moniker. It doesn't suit you anymore. It feels like it comes from a place of trauma. It feels like it doesn't. And he broke me down in the middle of the lobby there. And we had a conversation about it. But I changed it now to like, I am a good martial arts instructor because I'm the best student you can have in class with you. And so that's part of paying the karmic debt. Also, some of the work that I've done over the past couple of months, especially writing this book, I hope that over the next year, by the time I have written the book, I feel as though the karmic debt is paid. So we'll see. I do feel like I'm getting closer. I have realizations and I am giving myself more grace than I have in the past.
Beautiful.
So, yes.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I totally understand what you mean. Yeah, I got into the martial arts because I couldn't not for some reason, as it turns out, from like the youngest age. My parents actually had to fight with me to get me into a class because I was just doing it at home, and I was just like, just watching people do it and then mimicking it, and I just loved moving my body. And my mom was a dancer, and so it's always, my practice has always been super linked to music and to dance. And like, I love running, long distances and stuff like that. And a lot of my teachers were in the military in one capacity or another, or in law enforcement as well.
Mhm.
I never quite understood what the karma was about that though, you know, because
Mm.
I'm not that type of person. It's not in keeping with my values
Mhm.
largely, but
Right, right.
they're really good at violence. And
Mhm.
so when you're
Mhm.
looking to study
Mhm.
martial arts, what I found was like these are the most authentic people. This is an authentic relationship
Mhm.
that they have with violence. And so I inherently resonate with it. And they're sharing their real
Mhm.
relationship to something that is not, you know, what
Mhm.
motivated me actually, interestingly enough, I wanted to be a martial arts teacher from the time I was 5 years old, you know? And
Mm.
I was like, I want to be the best teacher
Mm.
that I can be. And so
Mhm.
I was like, if I want to be able to
Mhm.
teach this well, I have to be able to understand it from people who really fucking know what it looks like. And so that's what led
Mm.
me to studying in China and Japan and finding veterans and law enforcement people and all of that sort of stuff and really like wanting to get it. And my way is that I'm a history nerd. And
Mhm.
so like I really like I wanted to study the culture and the history and all of that shit. And so like I was 5 when I started, you know, and I
Mhm.
just like I gave my
Mhm.
whole life to it.
Dove head first.
You know, I was
Yes. It's
totally
something
true.
good to give
Yeah,
your
I was
life to.
22 when I took over my first school,
Mhm.
you know, and it wasn't until
Mm.
I had my first school that I realized that I had a lot more growth I needed to do. That I knew how to run a martial
Mhm.
arts school, but I didn't know how to be a leader. I didn't know how to get over my own stuff.
Mhm.
That was, you know, I had my own wounds, obviously.
Mm.
And I
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
lucky because I was a hippie. I, for some reason, knew it was like lean into, so I started studying Reiki and Qigong and breath
Mm.
work and things like that. And
Mm.
really, I found another couple teachers through my mid 20s and really devoted my time. I was watching a clip of yours and I saw, you know, shadow work was like a huge, huge, huge part. In particular, from like
Mm.
25 to 30, I was really doing a ton of like,
Okay.
I was doing ancestral work, I was doing shadow work, and I was really in this place of like the
Mhm.
healing is here, you know? And so I was
Mhm.
lucky that I kind of I had like the martial arts had given me, it felt like everything I needed to put myself back together again,
Mhm.
you know? And
Absolutely.
so I had the journey of like, I gave it all up. I was like, I'm done. And I came back and I rebuilt myself again. And then I had a second school.
Mm.
And then in
Mm.
2019,
It's beautiful.
Spirit said, close the school. You learned everything we need you to learn.
That's intense. Spirit knew something was gonna
They
happen in
said, get
2020.
where you're going to go by December of this year, or you will not
Mm.
be ready for what comes
Brilliant.
next. And I know 100% that my life got saved. If I know that if I
Mhm.
had tried to keep a school alive in that town, in that through COVID, I would have lost everything. I was already, you know, I was being a
Mhm.
personal trainer to have a martial arts school, you know, small rural
Mm.
community, you know, just, yeah, as a lot of people do. And I
As a
loved
lot
it
of people do.
and wouldn't trade any of that for anything. And now I just get to be an old man, you know, fat and happy. So grateful for my practice. But my little nephew's into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so I get to be a healthy 40-year-old who like,
And you get to relive what has happened to you as a
well,
child
and
through him.
yeah, well, and not even relive it,
It's a
but like
cycle.
hold this young person actually in a way that I never got held. You know, that's
Oh,
my
I
thing.
love that.
And hold my brother in a way that
Mhm.
that my father was not held.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
in the masculine,
Absolutely.
healing in the masculine, that like I think this sort of energy can really hold with each
Mm.
other is like I feel the way that my little nephew will not feel othered. And so when I leave, he like
Mhm.
grabs my leg and is like, please don't leave.
That's the thing to be grateful for.
My
There it
dog
is.
loves me. My wife feels safe. My nephew feels safe. And in that way, no, I
Yeah,
never have to
absolutely.
relive what I went through. For me, at least,
Mhm.
I am
Mhm.
making my life now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So in that, you know,
Beautiful.
I'm eternally grateful for the martial arts.
Absolutely. Stephen Watson said at Martial Summit, and I've picked it up as a creed, we will never
Yeah,
give back to martial arts what martial arts
absolutely.
is given to us, but we can
Absolutely.
try.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now my only real, training partner is a former student of mine who joined the Marines and just came back a couple of years ago, and he and I trained together. And you know, it was the same thing when he came back. He just didn't know what to do. He didn't have any sense of direction. The world is not particularly
Mm-hmm.
kind to people with strange experiences like being in the military. He's a very serious kid, little bit of the tism, as he would say,
Mm-hmm.
and it's tough. It's tough for kids to find their place in a world like this right now. And so I'm kind of constantly reminded of like this has always been the like one of the ways that we lift each other up and kind of keep each other feeling steady, you know.
The joke is it's incredibly difficult to be human, and then
Oh
you
my God.
add
Yeah,
30-year fixed rate
absolutely.
mortgages.
Absolutely. At least. Yeah.
Like
Um and so,
right.
I'm in this really cool place, but I keep asking myself the question because I am feeling again the first, you know, with 2026, the first conversations of like, yeah, I'm going to start practicing with people again. I'm going to start, I'm someone who mostly
Mm-hmm.
just like wants to have good relationships with all the martial arts teachers kind of in my area.
Mm-hmm.
Cause yeah, I'm,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 40 and I never was a particularly competitive person. And so mostly I just like, I like rolling with people, hearing their stories of training and getting to
Mm-hmm.
know them. And so that was really the spirit of
Absolutely.
me wanting to reach out mostly, just to kind of like put a frame on it. Was just a real clear sense of, gratitude for the work you're doing and, the importance of normalizing these sorts of conversations. And like, yeah, and being curious
Mm.
about like,
Mm.
yeah, I'm so fucking curious some of the stories you must have had trying to teach these things and like being a little bit more upfront, talking about it
Mm-hmm.
through a trauma
Mm-hmm.
lens and like how much you do that. So it's like I have a lot of questions that are like don't need to be asked, but like that like definitely arose as I was pondering like all the things that I feel, it's
Mm-hmm.
rare to find martial artists who are even open to talking about trauma. So I'm always
So I recorded an
great.
episode yesterday with Andrew that is going to air
Cool.
not this coming Thursday, but the following Thursday. And it is just on how a martial artist could start looking at their school and teaching from a trauma informed perspective without being having gone through trauma or necessarily being trauma informed. And one of the first things that I said that started the genesis of that conversation is
Mm-hmm.
anybody that has ever owned a school, think about how many people you have taught. Okay, so I've worked in one, two, three,
Mm-hmm.
four, five, six different schools, and then I have taught
Mm-hmm.
at a bunch of other different places. And so then if I think about how many, I've been teaching for 28 years. So if I think about how many people I've taught, it's probably close to 1,000. And then you ask the question, how many of those students were victims of some sort of trauma and you
Sure.
knew about it? For me, that answer is 6. I have had 6 students confide in me. And now I think that number's probably high. Most martial arts instructors don't get that number. I get that number because I lead with my story. I want people to know where I've come from. And so in doing that, I've kind of
Right.
opened the door for them to have that conversation with me. But most people, Andrew's like, I've never had anybody say that. So I have zero clue. And I was like, well, the likelihood is
God.
that
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least
Yeah.
one of them has, like, why else would we be gravitated toward?
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Mm-hmm. So that started the genesis of a lot of things. But recently, like yesterday, if I'm just to like ramble, yesterday
Okay.
it took a different turn because a friend of mine on martial arts, he made a post that said it is my perspective that every time we sexualize BJJ, even as a joke, we're actively destroying
100%.
something rare and valuable. We're degrading
Yeah.
the art. And so I said, to that. I said, this is a great point. I am actually working on a talk about this subject because it does just that, but it also does something far worse. It also alienates some students and the students that may be victims of sexual assault because now that's part of that environment. And so now this door
Great.
seemingly opened yesterday that is my life's work is trauma-informed martial arts and, you know, helping others understand what they need to do and how they need to approach and how they need to ask. And that whole comment brought this big ad nauseum of a conversation, and you get the guys that are like,
Of
we're
course,
just
of
doing it
course,
as
yeah.
jokes. It's just fun and game. You telling us we can't have fun? And I'm like, I'm not saying it's malicious. But what I'm saying is, if we create an environment where more people are happy, are healthy, are safe, and feel loved and supported, we're going to have more fun.
Yeah. Do you mind if I
And
speak to
so,
this? Just kind of share my take a little bit.
yes, go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, go
you
ahead.
know, and I think I think it's totally important for everybody to be able to have a good sense of humor about everything we do, you know? And I couldn't
Absolutely.
more fully
Absolutely.
agree in that when we are sexualizing that, we're taking something that is supposed to be you know, we wear the gis as part of a Neo-Confucian cosplay act. Let's be fucking clear. But the
Right.
function that they
Right.
serve is that they sameify everybody, and they are remarkably, you got to look real fucking good to look good in a gi. They bland us
Right.
all in that sort of, you know, the curves are not
Mhm.
quite as noticeable in that way that I think that was on purpose. Because these, in particular,
Absolutely.
they were being taught in high school settings where they were inherently
Mhm.
mixed gender settings. And
Mhm.
co-ed, that was what it was. And so, you know, inevitably those are like really important if you don't want to turn a setting into something which it so easily can become. Because what we're really doing is fighting against something that's
Mhm.
totally natural, which is to make fighting vulgar. Fighting is a completely
Mhm.
fucked up thing.
Absolutely.
There is nothing sacred about fighting at all.
Absolutely.
But how do
Mhm.
you make
Mhm.
martial arts and that setting sacred? I think one of the ways that we do
Mhm.
that is by not allowing it to become a place where, you know, I think the sexualization is not just a problem for the sex, right? But it's a problem because it then takes on, if we're just talking about men playing with men in the context, right? It then takes on a much different connotation of domination and the types of
Yes.
psychological domination that go along with the physical domination, and the way that it creates a
Mhm.
new type of being able to victimize each other, right? So like you're saying, of course,
Mhm.
yeah, we can push people out, we can do all those sorts of things, but actually it's most about, is the space capable of re-traumatizing you? And I would argue
Yes.
that if it's not a sexualized space, it becomes harder for us to like re-traumatize people around certain types of violence than if it's,
Absolutely.
this is a fucking asexual place. There is no sex in this place in that
Mhm.
way that we are kind of purposefully
Mhm.
covering it up so that we do not
Mhm.
imply some sort of sexual violence being able to even be accessed here. And I just,
Mhm.
because I think it's going to be so
That's
natural,
brilliant.
obviously. We all look at guys in Speedos
Mhm.
doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been the guy doing Brazilian. Like, I
Right.
know how gay it can look.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. My favorite thing to do is to take a deep breath next to somebody's ear and then whisper, you smell different when you're awake.
And that's something that I can tell you, my student from the Marines would have difficulty not letting that type of humor play around in the space.
Mhm.
But this is, again, it's like why the trust piece becomes actually like the most important,
Mhm.
because it's like it's gonna creep in. we're just
Mhm.
monkeys. We're just flinging shit in a fucking cage some days, you know, that's it. But can we hold ourselves to that standard as best we can? It's
Mhm.
mostly for the young
Mhm.
monkeys.
Mhm.
It's mostly to model a
For sure.
particularly challenging behavior. I think acknowledging its challenge
Mhm.
is actually part of acknowledging its importance.
Absolutely. I think that it was recently described best as
Exactly.
monks in a temple, you know? And the monk sweeps the floor and wipes the altar and lights the candle and rings the gong. And the gong is to tell the people that the class is about to start, but the gong is also to set his own intention to make sure that the monk shows up.
100%. That is the image that's always most resonated for
Mhm.
me, especially from my time training in China with
Mm.
the Shaolin monks and stuff like that, and practicing Buddhism as long as I have. And you know, my first martial arts school was called Shoshin Martial Arts, which means beginner's mind. It's
Very
like a
cool.
really, like, I just
Very
love,
cool.
like, I joke with people now. It's like, if there's really something that I equate my martial arts practice with, it's sweeping floors.
Mm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was the kid, started at 10. By 12, I was the one that would come in early and vacuum, and I was the one that would clean the
God bless you.
mirrors, and I was the one that would wash the windows, you know? And like I was
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
it
yeah.
at the time because if I did it, I could also see other people doing
Totally.
kung fu and I
It-
could watch them and I could learn from them. You
no,
know,
half
so
of
like
the
it was very
early, I mean,
selfish,
if
but
half of those Chinese stories about early martial arts school founders are of the kid who snuck a peek for, you know,
Mhm,
10 years while we, you know, and progressed faster than everybody else because of it. Yeah.
mhm.
Great.
So tell me about you said you and your wife were
Yeah.
creating a
We did this. Yeah.
curriculum.
So this was at my old school, my second school, which is called Sangha Martial Arts, which basically just translates to like community martial arts, community of practice in particular. So yeah, I've been teaching self-defense for a long time, learned how to teach self-defense in the normal.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Ooh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask
Okay,
you one of the
cool. Yeah. Do you
questions
want
I
to
ask
ask now
people
or
on
do
my
you want to let me
podcast.
talk a little bit?
Yeah, you gotta get.
Yeah. Great. Okay, great.
Let's ask it
What
now
was that?
since you're talking about
Oh, yeah.
self-defense. So the question I
Yeah.
said we're gonna ask now since you're talking about self-defense. This question starts with an omission, and the omission is that as a lifelong practitioner of martial arts, I recognize
Mm,
that I'm equal parts sadistic and masochistic, and that I am probably in the minority. The average student that comes through is not going to be that.
yeah.
So then the question is, how do you teach a non-violent person to speak the
Totally.
language of violence
Totally.
when it's necessary?
Yeah. Someone who is not inherently violent
Mhm,
is going to integrate those lessons as much as they're able to and as much as they want to.
mhm,
And so
mhm.
if someone does not want to speak the language of violence, you cannot teach them how to.
Absolutely.
But if they consent to it and they're interested in it and they apply themselves to it, it is the same as doing anything else, which is you must prepare the nervous system for the activity.
Mhm,
Which is to say, in this instance, one must become able to modulate your nervous system based on high levels of kinetic pressure and uncertainty and
mhm,
chaos. And so all we can really do is teach you how to see what's happening to you as pressure increases.
mhm,
And this essentially this is my response in that's why I really believe in teaching self-defense the way I do
mhm.
now. And I have not had an opportunity to teach it this way
Okay.
since I closed my school. But we actually use
Mhm.
contact improv
My
as
God,
the
that's
bridge,
brilliant. That
the
was the
dancer
dancer's idea,
therapist.
wasn't it?
And I was
Yeah, yeah.
already exploring the ground flow, breath work, healing, rewilding movement
Mhm,
sort of stuff. So as soon as she brought
mhm.
in the contact improv piece, it became actually for me, what was that?
It's the missing puzzle.
I really felt that
It's
way.
the missing
That was
puzzle
exactly
pieces.
how I felt when I
Yeah.
started playing with it, and I started being able to talk to the women about their experiences of it. And I realized how
Mhm.
similar it is to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think, it was a huge bridge that was introduced to the American
Mhm.
martial arts scene, writ large through the 90s.
Mhm.
But it became just another
Mhm.
way to dominate at a competitive scene, as
Yes.
opposed to what I felt, because I was doing my own thing over here, right? I mean, I specifically was like,
Mhm.
mixed
Mhm.
martial arts broke my brain for so many different ways, but it was really about, once you saw all the things about pressure testing, all the assumptions of the old way of training martial arts kind of went the fuck out the window,
Mhm.
which for me as a youngster, I'm a teenager
Mhm.
while that's happening, it was incredible to grow up during that period of time, because it was like there was no taboos. You didn't need to hide from any
Sure.
you could see what a martial arts system was on its own grounds, and there was no need to let it be outside of the realm of like real science, testing our
Mhm.
assumptions. And so, but for me, I looked at Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and I was like, this is a way of functionalizing, because I was thinking about like, how do I teach self defense better? And I was like, this literally just changes
Mhm.
the power dynamics of basically every woman's worst
Mhm.
fear, right? Which is like
Mhm.
like
Yes.
non-consensual space being taken in that way. Turns your
Mhm.
guard into one of your most stable and powerful positions to control somebody else.
Mhm.
And so I was like, that's
Mhm.
fucking huge. That's huge.
Mhm.
Because that gives us an opportunity to now begin to say, like, how do I change my relationship to these postures, these positions I'm finding myself in relationship to another
Mhm.
body in, these physics problems, with arms and legs.
Mhm.
And so I had seen that, but there was no good bridge, like we're saying. And so once you add in the contact improv bridge,
Mhm.
you know, I was like, one of our first things was hanging out in turtle position, right? And just exploring, like, at the
Mhm.
very least, I just always say protect the pretty stuff. And so there's a
Mhm.
lot of that, like, okay, let's just explore
Good.
the worst case. You are just trying to survive something that's unfolding, but that's not the way you're
Mhm.
going to experience it. You're just on your
Mhm.
knees, on your forearms, and we're just going to practice, like, hey, here's a little bit of pressure. How's that feel? Just beginning to explore and
Mhm.
trying to inculcate a meditative place, right? Where it's like, I'm here to notice what I'm
Mm.
experiencing and to say, nope, too much, stop, slow down, less pressure, more pressure.
Mhm.
I'm Because for me, that's the
Mhm.
corrective experience, right? Is like, once we're
Mhm.
actually, now, can I
Mhm.
keep
Mhm.
reminding my nervous system, right, I'm the one in control of this situation. I'm the one who's managing the modulation here now. Okay, there's a stimulus outside of me. Oh, it's listening to me. It's respecting my
Mhm.
modulation. And that in and of itself becomes
Mhm.
its own, essentially a therapeutic technique that can be
Mhm.
used by the person, by the trainee, essentially, in their own. It's a model of how to do everything,
Mhm.
basically. I think the hardest part for so many
Absolutely.
of us is letting that be every relationship, is saying, like, if you're going to be in
Yes.
relationship with me,
Yes.
we both have to be able to say, like, too much, like, what's happening here? Hey, that
Mhm.
doesn't feel good for me. Because it's that sort of
Mhm.
open communication style that's going to be able to actually address and learn and heal and
We repeat that for my male audience. Open communication
open
style.
communication style.
Please continue.
Absolutely. And that ultimately, I mean, for me, I will just say, like, learning that has allowed me to properly be in relationship, and so this
Mhm.
is like, this is the part that's a little bit on a high horse about it. because I try not to be preachy in my presentation about this stuff, but I feel very preachy in my orientation
Mhm.
to it, in that, yes, martial arts has always been a little political, in that I'm saying
Sure.
this is a
Sure.
culture that I'm creating for people to have a dojo is to, like,
Mhm.
I don't think we talk enough about what the culture of your dojo is. So, go ahead, please.
I will also say that most dojo owners, runners, instructors
Absolutely.
don't think about that. And I think that's part of what fails in most schools. You
100%.
have to
And
curate
what
it.
was hard was that when I inherited my school when I was young, I was smart enough to know
Mhm.
a couple of things, because I think one of my gifts is introspection. I can, like, kind of see something about myself and be like,
Mm.
"You're full of shit." But I
Right.
was young,
Right.
I was young, and it was 2008, when I'm watching the economy
Mhm.
collapse. My then longtime teacher
Mhm.
went off to the military to join the global war on terror. And here I am, being asked
Mm.
by 100 or so people to be like, "Hey, will you keep teaching since they're leaving and you're the person who runs the school?" And I was like, "I guess, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I like money, you know?" And
Right.
so I was just like, "Okay, like, yeah, I can do this. I'm already doing it." And I loved it. I was
Mhm.
great at it. But I knew that I wasn't teaching I was teaching what my teacher taught these people. And so
Right.
what I saw
Right.
was, I'm not a leader. I can't replicate what I didn't build, because I don't know how it got here to
Mm.
100. I didn't understand that the creation of the culture that we were all swimming in.
Mhm.
And, that if there's
Mhm.
really a thing that I took the time to kind of figure out, it was like how to be a good leader, how to understand community, like what is community? Like, I ended up getting involved with, like, the nature connection people for a number of years, and, like, studied the way indigenous cultures create community and tribe and village, and all of this sort of stuff. I was
Mhm.
really fascinated with answering this question. But it was during that period of time that I became obsessed with, actually, it's all about the culture we create in the dojo, because that is what is replicating.
Mhm.
And I, as the first student,
Mhm.
am fundamentally the person who's setting the norms for that culture. So, fast forward, we're
Absolutely.
talking about self defense again. What my thought is, the
Mhm.
reason why this is so important to me is because this becomes the culture that we're modulating and
Yes.
modeling all the time, which is this, like, we're listening to each other. These people are in here beating the shit out of each other.
We say that
We're
again for the
listening to each
male
other.
audience, listening to each.
But I go in the room and the jacked guys are beating the shit out of each other, and the kids are playing, and
Mhm.
everybody is listening to each other. What is that about? What is happening
Mm.
in there? My motto when I was teaching was, I want my students to be able to train anywhere with anyone and be able to
Mhm.
feel adaptable to any setting. And
Yes.
to me, sensitivity, having traveled a lot and met lots of people and been a bartender and all of this sort of stuff for many, many years, that our
Mhm.
ability to adapt to settings is, as I think, as Homo sapiens,
Mhm.
one of our greatest gifts. And so,
Absolutely.
greatest strengths, what's our superpower? We sweat. That's what allowed us to dominate
Mm.
the entire planet. We
That's right.
sweat good.
Mhm. Right.
These
And
dang
we have
thumbs.
thumbs.
But the thumbs, relative to the sweating, I gotta say, they're close.
Right. Yeah. 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 For sure.
Yeah. And so anyway, so yeah, that was for me the contact improv, and then the inner struggle, the inner
Mhm.
the really hard conversations about real self-defense,
Mm.
which is, you already know your attacker.
Mhm.
They're in your home, they're in your school, they're in your life. Yeah,
Your
wherever it is.
community, your.
You already know them. And so how do you actually fucking address that?
Mm. Mm. So you've probably heard soft
Yes.
skills or soft techniques and then the hard skills. And I immediately push back on that. Okay. And the reason that I push back on that is because I think there's three. First of all, those that are called soft skills
Absolutely.
are actually crisis intervention. They happen
Absolutely.
before the confrontation. But then there are also ways, and people will have conversations with me ad nauseum about this. And I will say, you are arguing with somebody that has used those skills in real life. They do exist and they do work. But there are things that are classified as soft skills. I can end a fight that has become
Absolutely.
physical without punching somebody. I can end a fight that has become physical
100%.
without gouging somebody's eye out. It is about just manipulating their body. It is about taking their balance, placing them on the ground, not throwing them like a judo throw. So there are the soft skills and there are the hard skills. And the reason that I make that distinction is because this conversation starts in a lot of very unique spaces. I teach a group of
Mm.
people. It's a very private class that is for an LGBT community. They don't have another place to go. So it's just, it is curated so that they feel safe so that we can work on the thing. There's a lot of trauma
Absolutely.
in that
Yeah.
class. There's a lot to unpack in that class,
Amazing.
but it's very rewarding. I have learned things like, let's not say the word relax, because that can be a trigger to some people because there's somebody that's
Relax.
been
Yeah, yeah,
slapped on
yeah,
the
yeah,
back going,
yeah,
come on,
absolutely.
relax. It's okay. Right. So
Yeah.
just stuff like that.
Amen. Amen.
But a lot of them, I had one of them say to me, because we were talking about martial arts and we were talking about how, like, as a martial artist, you're Matt now and get a thumbs up. We're having a lovely conversation. But if we were to fight, I flip a switch and you're no longer Matt. You're just a body in front of me. And like, that's how we kind of navigate that. Very simplicity said, but it's a little more complex than that. But that's like kind of the simple breakdown. And they were like, well, that's dehumanizing a person. We've been abused. We've experienced that. We don't want to do that. And so now I'm with a brick wall. Well, what do I do now? Well, I'll teach you the soft skills. You don't want to hurt them and you don't want to dehumanize them, but are you okay with setting them down on the floor so that you can get away? Okay, we'll
Yep.
learn that.
Yep.
Are you okay? You know what I'm saying? And the other unfortunate thing about this LGBTQ space is that they don't always know
Yeah,
they're attacking.
absolutely. Stochastic
Like
violence
right
is very
now in
different
our
for that.
current
Absolutely.
climate,
Yep.
in our current society, climate, whatever you want to say, multiple of my students have been attacked just by random people that pushed them into a bathroom and
Right.
wanted
Yep.
to have words with them or wanted to beat them up because of who they are. And so it's like, well,
100%.
how do you mitigate that? That's a different level. So
No,
it
that's
became a little bit of a challenge. I had a breakthrough in Christmas that blends very beautifully into your physical improv. And that was, I was at a Christmas event and I was downstairs in the basement because the upstairs was too big and the only people downstairs were the kids.
Yep.
And I'm playing with the kids and they're roughhousing with me. And, anybody that has a bit of martial arts experience, when a kid comes in,
Yep.
you use it
Yep.
to like learn to yield and redirect and flow. And you're just juggling this little kid. And the kids will get a little bit playfully frustrated and like, oh, I'm coming back and I'm going to get you this time, but like you learn that if I don't use the word yielding any longer, if your ability to stay free to flow exists, that even the more intensity that comes in, you can still maintain that same flow. You can still maintain that same love and compassion for the person that's in front of you. And so our classes are moving in that direction.
Totally.
And that's the
Totally.
same thing. That's the same thing.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I do also want to say that you reminded
Great.
me of a quote by Hatsume, who is the last
Yeah.
living practitioner of Budo Taijutsu. And, I say for anybody watching, Budo Taijutsu is the technical term for what layman's know as ninjutsu. And what that means, him being the last living practitioner, is he was the last person that's still alive that was an assassin for the government. And the government was like, we're not doing that anymore. Gave him money and he opened a school. But he says, when I teach martial arts, I
Mhm.
teach a man to control a demon. Sometimes the demon is in front of you, sometimes the demon is within you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Kukishin, Kamishin, I think, is one of the important teachings within that system,
Yes.
kind of framework. Yeah, my
Yes.
teacher was trained. He was a special forces guy for a little while, like Army Ranger dude. In his nerdiness,
Hmm.
he got really into taijutsu and became a Godan actually under Hatsumi. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. And so, yeah, good
Nice.
reference.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree very much. So, and that exact thing, because the demon mind, these things come, it's important to recognize that there's a lot of Buddhist thinking here, kind of like touching the edge whenever we're looking at Japanese culture in particular. But
Sure.
the important thing that I like to remember, that I like to try to like work with, I don't really have many students to remind these days, but in conversation when we're talking about these things, I like to
Hmm.
think about it through the lens of what that actually meant to that culture, right? Which is a lot, there are,
Hmm.
you know, there's the supernatural meaning, but a lot of times what we're really looking at
Right.
in the imagery and the iconography and the art is these wrathful Buddhas, right? So like we
Yes.
in the West, we only see the peaceful Buddha face, but there is the wrathful Buddha face that's
Hmm.
equally represented in a lot of artistic traditions.
Hmm.
And that when injustice unfolds in front of us, we can all access
Hmm.
this demon. As my teacher would
Absolutely.
say, just for a lot of people, righteous indignation is a place that you'll go to find it, and that sense of like,
Mm.
so one of the guys who I really appreciate now, Kevin Sikors is his name. He teaches out of Montreal, and he kind of developed his own framework for teaching Sistema called Combat Sistema. Really, really just an
Okay.
outstanding teacher, honestly. But he really
Hmm.
brings in, and I was alluding to this earlier, but like he really brings in the psychological elements to this, which is like what
Mm.
would fight to defend? Where are your lines?
Mm.
Is what he really pushes, like, don't leave any stone unturned when it comes to really asking yourself the question.
I think that is something that we as martial artists should be more responsible for
100%
doing. Yeah. Because we're too
too involved.
involved in the
100.
physical and we're not
And for me, that's like
introspective enough. Yeah.
it has to live in all three centers for me. Is like, yeah, for whatever
Yes.
reason, I come from Uechi-do, which is a system, but Sanshin kata is like our primary orientation. And so like
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
three conflicts, the three heart, mind, and body
Hmm.
just got really introduced to my
Hmm.
life super young. And so for some reason, like that's been a big theme that's gone forward. And I think when you
Hmm.
look back at the
Hmm.
older traditions in particular, like what was referred to as like the scholar warrior tradition of China and stuff like that, you know, you can see anywhere though, like
Yes.
warriors are always
Yes.
very well studied about lots of things because being
Hmm.
widely educated is very, very helpful for finding your way through complex situations. And this is all
Hmm.
ultimately very complex, because there's legal
Absolutely.
considerations, there's moral considerations, there's emotional considerations, there's physical considerations. And our ability to, because not
Hmm.
so the reason I bring that up is like, yeah, we can have an intellectual conversation about that. We can say like, okay, kids, or not
Yes.
kids, obviously. I'm talking to, adults at this point. But, we
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
sit down and be like, okay, what is your why? And that's an intellectual exercise
Yeah. Hmm.
until it's an emotional exercise.
Hmm.
And recognizing that
Absolutely.
it's not just one center. It has to live in all of us all the way. And
Hmm.
again, this is why I keep coming back to culture, because our external culture doesn't make time or space for that. And so, like, if someone's coming to martial arts to learn how
Sure.
to kick someone's ass, and it's like, actually, just go beat the shit out of people on the street
Hmm.
if that's what you want to do. Actually, the
Right.
reason that we take this so seriously, I think, is exactly because of the point you're making, which is that we have to take responsibility here. This is not a place actually
Yes.
of irresponsible violence. This is a place of sacred violence, And so like we
Very well
sharpen
said.
the axe, we clean the axe, we re-oil the axe, we put the axe away properly, we put it where it belongs, and then we remove it when we need to use it again. But everything is about the responsible use and preparation of those tools for you do not draw the sword unless you seek to kill.
One more time. Responsible
Responsible use of the
use.
tool, absolutely. Because you do not draw the sword unless you
Yes.
aim to kill. And so, like you were saying, yeah, the soft skills. I think it takes a particularly brave individual and a particularly big-hearted individual to find the way to say, like, this doesn't end the way you think it ends. How many
Right.
martial arts stories you go back are all about the older warrior giving this young upstart an opportunity to realize their error and to make a change in the face of a humbling but ultimately survivable incident, and so for me at least, especially as I age and I move toward my elderhood and I think about, the cultures that I want to be a part of as I'm thinking about, how do I make a culture of practice.
You keep calling yourself
I just
old.
turned 40.
I
I
think
just
we're
turned
the
40.
same
Yeah,
age,
for
and
sure.
oh,
Totally.
I'm older
No,
than
no, no. Well,
you.
but
Stop
what
it.
I mean by that is in a traditional context, if we're 40, we're eldering. We are now responsible.
How very Eastern philosophy of you. I appreciate that. The Western
No,
philosophy of me
no,
says
of
I'm not
course.
old yet.
Believe me, I mean, that's one of the reasons I love martial arts so much is my life is chock full of 80-year-olds doing one finger push-ups. Is those people
Love it.
exist. You don't,
Love it.
age
Yes.
is just a construct, but it also is a social. There are things that you can choose to take responsibility for. Right? As a 40-year-old, I
Absolutely.
can take responsibility for.
And
Yeah.
even on the less heavy side of things, if we don't talk about trauma and fighting and all this, that, and the other, I have said on my podcast multiple times that martial arts is the fountain of youth. And really what I mean by that is movement. And if you could take accountability for your own movement to keep moving, a body in
Absolutely.
motion stays in motion. And actually, I don't like that moniker as much as I like a body of water stays flowing. A body of water that is
Absolutely.
not flowing becomes stagnant and mosquitoes grow
Yeah,
from it.
absolutely. And
Moss grows,
that's literally like you could argue that might be the first metaphor that gave rise to Qigong is in the Taoist canon, right? It's just whenever there's stagnancy, move. And so you're 100% right. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Always move.
Yeah. So we're coming up on an hour, so I don't know if you have to run or anything like that.
Yeah.
Great. I'd be
I don't
happy
necessarily have to run.
chat
We can
just to
keep
like kind of bring
going.
us to a natural close. Yes.
This is different. This is different than what I normally do, because I normally am just not talking as much, But did you have other questions? You're the one that initiated
No,
this.
it's
I
great.
also
Yeah,
didn't
totally.
initiate this, which is very much different. Did you have any other questions in relation to, I guess, what has now become my thesis work?
Yeah, no. I mean, my intention is largely just to build relationship. So I don't have a huge
Awesome.
agenda around it.
Awesome.
Of course, there remain questions, but I feel an aliveness in the conversation born of resonance that could likely just kind of continue.
Same. And that's what I like is the
Likewise.
genuine conversation.
Yeah.
That's what's important.
No,
to me.
likewise. I'm very much appreciating. Yeah. And so, we can just draw naturally to a close, in a little bit. Yeah. So, but, if I were to like kind of bring a focus to, I'm going to ask you, so do you currently run a school or do you work in others' school? Like, are you teaching in someone else's school right now?
I currently teach out of
Great.
some rehab facilities where people are, rehabbing from drug and alcohol addiction. I currently teach out of a couple community centers, and I teach out of that one LGBTQ space. I don't currently own a school. That is
Really?
changing in this year, 2026. Yes, I am actively, as of this
Cool.
moment, looking for spaces. And when you find the right space, that's when
Amen.
everything else falls in place and I'm going to do a school. The school that I'm going to do though, I am structuring it fundamentally
Awesome.
different from anything that I've come across. So I am opening free to flow martial arts. Okay. And our schedule, instead of the schedule being
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
kids karate class 5 to 6, adult karate class 6 to 7, my blocks are going to be, I'm going to have kids classes. So there'll be like
Yep.
a kids
Yep.
movement class. There's going to be a kids
Awesome.
meditation
Totally get
class.
it.
There's, like stuff like that. I'm going to have a self-defense clinic, which is going to be a reoccurring class because I've always taught self-defense in the capacity of clinics as opposed to like, here's a 4-hour seminar. I understand that the 4-hour seminar is designed so that you can meet new students, you can come in, they
Yeah.
can learn more martial arts. I get that. But what I have said is that I am very conscious of the way humans work. And I'm very conscious of when you own a school, you have people that come to the door and they already have a preconceived idea. And that might be, I'm coming to martial arts so that I can get in shape. Great. That student's going to be with me for like a year because then they get in shape and they think that they've learned everything. There's some people that are chasing black belts. And once they
Yeah.
get black belts, sadly, they fall off. There's not very many people that come through the doors that are lifelong practitioners. And so my concern is somebody's like, I went to that 4-hour seminar, so now I know how to defend myself. And so
Yeah.
I don't
Smart.
I don't give that as an
Yep.
option,
Yeah. There's no
you know?
certification, and now
So
you know
like
how to
there'll be
defend
stuff
yourself.
like,
Yeah. Totally. Nope.
yeah. There's none of that. So
Awesome.
no, I'm gonna do that. And
That's a
the
great way.
school's gonna exist
I really
this
that
year.
really resonates with the way that I'm trying to kind of find my way to orient a school.
Are you gonna open a school?
Son of a bitch. No, well, okay, so yeah.
I felt that response more than I've felt any other response because for years it has been, are you gonna open a school? And I'd be like,
Yeah. Well,
but
I've
now
been
it's like,
lucky because for the
yes.
last 6 years, I haven't known where I wanted to live. Because my wife and I
Okay.
started a cross country road trip in 2020, and then we decided not to become plague spreaders. So we accidentally ended up back in my childhood home where I've been living since 2020. But like the plan was never to settle down here. It's like maybe do some fixing it up so that my old man
hmm
can sell it when it's time. And then I got a new nephew, I got a new
hmm
niece, I'm around family, I got married. All of
hmm
these things happened kind of because I was super close to my family for the
hmm
first time in 15 years, honestly. And so it's been
Beautiful.
incredible.
Beautiful.
And right now, I'm going
hmm
through the first experience of like, okay, I think I know where I'm gonna go live. Like so I'm being called back up to Vermont where I was living, way northern Vermont, as
Okay.
opposed to I was living way in southern Vermont before. So I'm looking at the Burlington, Vermont
hmm
area, but generally Lake Champlain is actually what's calling me.
Okay.
And so now I have the unfortunate, you know, circumstances of knowing like, oh, okay, well, now I have to get involved with my community and understand who these people are and, learn about
hmm
the challenges here. And, um, I've also gone through I've gone through a huge transformation over the last 5 or 6 years. Mm, You know, the things that
hmm
I'm passionate about doing ritual with the sun and the moon. I'm passionate about, like I really want to be a person who is officiating, weddings and funerals and doing that sort of work in nature in particular as the type of spiritual practitioner
hmm
I am. I
hmm
used to joke I'm a filthy heathen, you know, what yeah, I am someone who is really devoted to the spiritual power of nature. Um and
hmm
so I don't know what form of service I will be drawn into.
hmm
But I know in
hmm
particular my work with men I've been doing, kind of men's circles, not like men's work in the traditional sense, but I've been doing a lot of like sitting in circles with other humans, doing fire ceremony, this sort of stuff for now the
Mm,
last, kind of solely devoted to that for the last 6 years. And it's been absolutely
mm,
incredible. And it has changed me kind of irrevocably. And so, I much more feel like I don't need that. And I'm not in a position in my life where I have many students in that way, other than just my personal
mm,
relationships. So, maybe I'll help somebody else start a school, or help, maybe help somebody run a school, or maybe I will be called to teach. But what's funny is, like, about my first two schools, I never really wanted to start them either. There were just some younger kids. It was always kids between like 10 and 13 or 10 and 15 that were like right on the cusp of getting their black
mm,
belts. And I was like, I'm not going to
mhm,
abandon these kids who are so close to hitting a goal. And so it like became something so much
mhm,
bigger than what it was, like what it ever really needed to be in certain ways. In some ways it was just
mhm,
something much more primal and natural and real, which was just like mentorship and care and showing up for those who are younger than us, who are doing something similar to us.
mhm.
And so, like, mostly what I'm going to do is I'm going to show up in this new place and I'm going to see if I can be of service, you know?
Absolutely.
But I do dream of a group of people who could hold a culture like the one we've talked about. One that is
Mhm,
exploring, what does it mean to hold violence and power responsibly? What does it mean to communicate open and honestly? What does it mean to prepare each
mm.
other and show up for each other?
To listen, to listen.
Exactly.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's a dream. Absolutely. But
Mhm,
but I have so many more ways now to do that than I ever have before.
mhm,
I can do that in ceremony. I
mhm.
can do that in healing sessions. I can do that in martial arts. I can do that just in my life by having a conversation. And so
Absolutely.
I can't wait to find out. Can't wait to
No,
find out.
that's a good answer. That's a great answer. And also, like, for me as a martial artist, I will not push this on you, but I will say for me as a martial artist, all of the other things are
100%,
also martial.
which no one else understands.
So like me as a martial artist, when I helped a dance studio get started and I helped a bunch of people in a community come together to do dance
Yes.
and to do performances,
Yes. I do.
that was martial
I do.
arts. Do you know what, when I got together a group of kids that were struggling in school and they had a study group,
Totally.
that was martial
100%.
arts. Do you know?
Yeah, I had a D&D group in
So
my last
the
school,
rituals martial
when
arts.
I get together and some teenagers play D&D. That's martial arts. Yep.
Absolutely. Yes,
Totally.
it is
Right?
all
Right.
kung fu.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm really curious, but I really appreciate the question. But if there's anything I can do to be of support
Mhm.
to you and your journey, it sounds like you're at a really exciting phase.
I am. The flame has
Totally.
been
That's
lit and I'm
awesome.
reinvigorated. So that's
Well,
a great place to be.
so I mentioned that guy, Kevin Sikors, who's up in Montreal. He closed his school some years ago. He's doing a lot of stuff online. So it's like I know the things I'm gonna keep working on. I know the training I'm doing.
Mhm.
I don't fucking know what anybody
Right,
else is gonna do, but
right.
I'm gonna do it. But I would love to come see your school sometime.
I appreciate that, and the
Cool.
invitation
Cool.
is extended. Absolutely, absolutely. Because that's one of the other things that I want to do is I I think schools suffer from what Marshall Summit is.
Mm.
They suffer because they don't have it. There is a fellowship that should exist, and they don't have it because there's a deficit mindset. If I'm hanging out with
Oh my
another
god,
school, I'm
absolutely. I
hanging out
know.
with my competition, and then the McDonald's and the Wendy's
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
talk
yeah.
to each other. You know,
Yep.
like that. That's the mentality, and I think that we do more
100%.
together as a community and can bring in more
100%. I mean, I
people.
actually think that this is like this could be applied all the way down to like, anti-union sentiments in this country, but like anything that gets
Yes.
people together
Yes.
across lines scares people who are rich. And so, the
Right.
lines really help the existing structures to stay in solid form, and I used to complain about this all the time when I had my first school, which is like, why do these bunch of like petty little dictators think that they're starting their little kingdom and that
Mhm.
these fights matter to anybody but us?
My
Yeah.
Zen practitioner
Yeah.
speaks on this, my Zen teacher, and he says, let them eat cake is an incomplete statement because you're supposed to say, let them eat cake, but control the portion.
Sure.
And that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? They can eat cake,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
Save some for
not
later.
too much cake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I just think that I think that we fall into those competitive traps. We fall into those sorts of which is exactly like you're saying,
Absolutely.
it's zero sum. Either you're, but even that fear for me is born of an insecurity, right? It's like, why are you worried? It's like, yo, you can't
Absolutely.
let your girl go hang out with her friends. It's that same weak
Hmm.
sauce of just like, bro, come on. Like either you trust your girl or you don't. Like I don't know what to say. Like
Right.
there's a
Right.
problem with the relationship, not with
Right.
and what's true is, yeah,
Hmm.
you are
Hmm.
trying as long as you can to get this person to keep paying you for something. And so
Yes.
my humble opinion is get that relationship out of the way first because it seems to be blinding us to something much more important, which is how the fuck do you show up for your student?
Hmm.
Are you answering the questions
Hmm.
that they need to be
Hmm.
answering? Great.
Well, I want to create the school that I envision opening. I would love to create a school where a student comes to me for two
Yep.
months, 3 months, 4 months, and then says, with all respect, I want to spend a month over
Absolutely.
here doing judo. And I'm like, great, go, come back. Tell me what you have, bring it back. And so then like they take a month
Totally.
long hiatus and dive into judo and then they come back to me. Or maybe they don't come back to me and they love judo
Totally.
and they found judo and that's great. And then I was the
Totally.
gateway drug
But can we be
into,
friends that
you
whole
know,
time?
yes, yes. As long as what I
Exactly.
want is I want the community to continue. Whether you're paying me and coming in and being a student or not is of less value. This might not be a good business model, but I also I
Terrible business
also
model.
think that right, terrible business model. I think that if I'm leading with this genuinely and open-hearted, that
Yeah,
it creates an environment that is welcoming enough that
absolutely.
people will gravitate towards it. And so like this is also new and exciting because it's not the way that martial arts schools are ran and it's not the way that I've done it before, but it's
Totally.
it's at least worth the
I
try,
totally do.
you know? And when Source knocks on your door and says, "Hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing,"
Stay
you
quiet.
well, you listen, you know? Yes.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. No, it's totally true. Yeah. And I think that's what resonates most for me. What's my project was at Sangha was I specifically wanted a bunch of different martial arts teachers to all be practicing out of the same place and to be able to buy one
Mm.
membership, but to be able to go train with these
Mhm.
different teachers. Because what my dream
Mhm.
was that in two generations of
Mhm.
students, you would, if we did our jobs right, where we were cultivating kind of a traditional martial arts culture around respect and values and
Mhm.
virtues, sort of development next to all the things that would actually make you an incredibly functional mixed martial artist, that we could
Mhm.
build what I'm actually trying to build, which is a traditional mixed martial arts dojo, where
Yes, yes, yes.
from de-escalation techniques all the way to,
Mhm.
yes, we do have airsoft guns. We are going off and practicing room clearing. If you have a black belt,
Mhm.
you've been training with us for a number of years, we know who you are, you know, yes, we can take you all the way up to just before like ultimate violence. all the way down to
Mm-hmm.
peacemaking practices, truth and reconciliation, de-escalation, things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature, that anybody who's ever been in a
Mm.
mediation session or a truth and reconciliation group or anything like that can tell you your nervous system could completely get just as jacked up in an argument as it does in a fight, maybe even more so.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, for
Absolutely.
me, it's like, if you can't argue with people well, if you can't spar with people well, you're
Mm-hmm.
not a functional
Mm-hmm.
user of the tool that we have here. Yeah. And so it's like,
Absolutely. Well, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'll start a
that's
debate
again,
club
like,
in my
that's
school.
my
That's a good
dream,
idea.
is exactly, it's like,
That's a
get
great
into it.
idea.
Can you just like even argue against your own points? Like, do you have that level of ability to like
Mhm.
step outside of it, see what's going on, observe patterns, observe
Mhm.
conflicts? It's the same. It's same, you know? And I guarantee you the cops or the military or anything like that, you talk to those recruiters,
Mhm.
and I can tell you they would be much more satisfied with recruits who are not only physically fit, but emotionally intelligent, capable of navigating conflict
Yes.
skillfully. You know, those are the real skills. Once you get, you know, like my student, he worked primarily
Mhm.
as base security in a number of different settings, actually on 3 different continents.
Mm.
And he learned the value of all of those soft skills. He was like, I am a
Mhm.
professional at de-escalation now, you know? And that to me is like, absolutely, that is an important martial skill.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Have you read
absolutely.
Verbal Judo?
I was so lucky with my early teachers because he was like he was like a business guru guy. So he was like all about, so he loved that book. Yeah,
Mm.
totally, totally.
Good. I'm just fortunate enough to be around people that are like, I'll ask a question and be like, maybe you should read this book. You know, so like I'm well read out of like, well, what does that mean? How do I find the answer?
Thanks for the
You
koan,
know?
asshole.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Great. More homework.
That's great, man. Well, congratulations. Remind me again where you Louisville.
I am in
Great. Okay,
Louisville,
cool. Yeah,
Kentucky.
I thought I remembered Kentucky. I couldn't remember where. That's great.
And I will be back at Marshall Summit next year. I've already filled out one
Great.
of the presenter forms. Yeah, I'm doing Free to Flow again, which is a class that I did, and I'm doing my lecture that you attended. I'm doing that again with a little bit of a different twist because I want to add in stuff like
Great.
tips for the
Great.
school owners. And then I'm teaching a Kempo class with Craig, and I am teaching a class that our current title is The World's Smallest Violence
That's awesome.
with Stephen Watson.
That's very sweet. I love that.
So maybe
And
maybe
Craig,
subject to change, but
Craig is one of the school owners who always has a lot of people represented there, right? Is that the case? Yeah,
I
yeah.
do believe
I think I just can't remember his last name. I'm trying to remember if we're talking about the same person. But that's great. That's really, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I really agree with you in terms of, I really think that's
Warren.
okay, cool.
WHAREM. Warren.
Sweet.
That's his last name.
Yeah, because I agree with you. I think that sense of like alliance, and you know, I used to always joke, it's like if you could get the martial arts community to agree on any sort of cause, it would be solved tomorrow. You know, it's like if the entire martial
Absolutely.
arts community was just like,
Absolutely.
we are going to solve this problem for the world right now, it would be solved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, there's strength in numbers, and we have that dedication to the thing. Whatever's in front of us,
And
we
so I
dedicate
think
to it.
the first
yeah.
thing that needs to happen for that is the barriers between the teachers need to get pulled down, which is part of what I do appreciate exactly what you're saying about what the Marshall Summit, I think, could be, which is, you know.
Well, there's the other component is, and I've told this story to Jeremy and Andrew just in asking about Marshall Summit. And I said, you know, I didn't know anything about Whistle Kick. I didn't know anything about Marshall Summit. Tommy Given was on the podcast. He's like, you gotta come to Marshall Summit. And I'm like, okay, fine. I've been doing martial
Yeah,
arts
yeah,
for
yeah.
32 years. How many
Oh my God. Yep.
martial arts events have I been to? And so I said, I'm coming. You guys can calm down. I've got the hotel booked. I'm coming. And they're like, okay, what about the banquet? And you hear the banquet and you're like, great. Because like how many martial arts events have we been to? And the banquet is just an ego stroke and you pay your $200 and you get your little certificate. And I was like, I'm going to skip the banquet this time. I'll come and
Mm.
I'll teach and I'll fellowship and I'll do the thing. I'm going to skip the banquet. And then you get there and you're like, this is not the same thing. This is purposefully not the same thing. And this is beautiful. And no one's walking around with their nose in the air. And I don't have to kiss the ground of these certain masters that walk. And I think that that's the other important component is that we as teachers don't
I
stay
agree.
students often enough,
Yep.
And I think that's the other thing that I want to foster within that school is I want other students or other teachers to come teach, but I want them to be students. I don't want them to be, I am great grandmaster
No, of course.
senior. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If you've been doing it for
Totally.
50
You
years
get
or
your
whatever and
flowers.
you've
Yeah.
earned your rank, have your title. You got it. Have it. Take your victory lap. But when you take your victory lap, take a class too.
No, absolutely. I mean, and that's why
You
it's
know?
always been so important to me to always have teachers always kind of have the things I'm working on. I used to teach in a white belt a lot to remind, in particular, the kids like that Shoshin, attitude of, it's actually why I really liked your adage about, I'm not a great martial arts teacher, but I am the best student you could ever have. I agree. I don't think it's a great, there's something
Mhm.
about it, but I think what I like about its attitude is that you present yourself as, but I am a fantastic student.
Mhm.
And I think to me,
Right. Right. Well, and
100,
he was right to call me out on that because what it is I took trauma
yep,
and I
exactly.
packaged it with
I
humility,
really do know.
And it's also funny because he was
That's
the
great.
first person that's ever
That's
called me out on that. And in calling me out on that, it was like he's just calling me out on
yeah,
like, you can be a great student, but
yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
you're also a really good teacher because of that. And
And
you
that's
should stop
exactly right.
downplaying that part.
That's
And I was
exactly
like,
right. No, and I'm glad somebody
so,
took the time to do it with you, honestly. Because not,
hmm, hmm,
we could argue about the
yeah,
setting, but
yeah.
I know.
Well, the setting's fine. The setting's fine. And
Yeah,
he
yeah,
didn't
yeah, yeah,
know that
yeah.
he was going to make me
Oh,
cry. And
what a
Rich, if you're
cutie.
watching this, it's
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
fine. You changed my life for the better. But when it happened, I did wipe tears from my eyes and said, you're not
Aw,
supposed to make the big
yeah,
man
that's so
cry.
sweet though.
You know, you know. Well, this the 6'5" man that exists in this current society, I'm not really, I am better at showing emotions now than I was, but society kind
Yeah,
of hardens us
absolutely.
in a
No,
way.
we have to really fight for our softness, I find.
Actually, another thing, since we're just talking, is the other way that
Yeah,
the trauma informed teaching is
cool.
shaping for me is that anybody that has ever dealt with any sort of therapy or trauma work or shadow work has heard the phrase,
Yes.
you don't need to compare traumas. And I have said that when I was teaching. And until recently, I haven't
Mm,
taken it to the next level. And the next level is this. Not only should I say, oh, well, Matt went through this and that feels way worse than what I went through. So I
yeah,
don't need to complain about what I went through. But the average victim goes, oh, well, I went through that thing back there. This isn't that bad. I can hang out here. So we as victims are always
yeah,
constantly comparing our own traumas, and it was really kind of Marshall Summit that brought that to light because it's like, I haven't really dealt with the trauma that society gives to me because it's not that big of a
relative.
deal in comparison to, the
Yeah,
2 years of abuse
yep.
that took place as a child. And it's a disservice. So I'm trying to get my students also to a place where they value and respect every bit of their trauma so that they can
Amazing.
heal it properly.
Yeah, beautiful. No, I love that. I think that piece is so important. Thanks for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Lovely.
I'm really grateful
Man,
for the
this
time.
talk has been great.
Yeah, thanks for hanging
For
out.
real.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
really great. I really hope that we can
Yeah.
stay in touch, and I'd really love to. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of your project, and yeah, anything I can do to support, please don't hesitate. And yeah,
I appreciate that. And if you get a school, if that's what you're pulled to do,
yeah, for sure.
then
Love
likewise, I'll
that.
come teach.
Yeah, and it's cool. I mean, I think that's part of what feels exciting about being around other people who are teaching for me is like giving me opportunities to be around the thing I love, even if it's not something that is like mine to build in this moment. And the way that I feel that that's like, it feels like an important
Absolutely.
step to show up in service to others
Mm-hmm.
while
Mm-hmm.
I'm in this kind of waiting period of, what's going to be my relationship to this thing.
I'll say I will add on to that because we've said it once. I said it once in the podcast. I'll say it
Yeah, yeah,
again.
yeah.
We can't give back to martial arts what martial arts has given to us, but we can try. And I think if you take that as the moniker and you move forward with it, then you find our real job as instructors is to support the other instructors and to build the community. And that means that I should help the school that's right down the road do the things they need to do, as
Yep.
well as
Yep.
cultivating my own.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I'm gonna stop the recording.